Hi, this is Gina Wagers, and for Module 4, we are discussing leadership styles and ethics. So one of the first questions that came to mind for me as I was kind of diving into the resources from this module was, where does our capacity for leadership actually come from? And I think the 10 theories of leadership that were presented in the Christianity resource really kind of helped me dive deeper into that question, because what I had thought before was that maybe leadership came from us as individuals and our personalities, but also how much content knowledge we have about the actual job that we're doing. And so the leadership theories that I think best aligned with that or kind of reinforce that for me were the great man theory, which is that your traits are inherited and you have those kind of within you some natural capacity for leadership. And then also the skills theory, that right, your technical skills lead to you having credibility and actually being able to perform a job or a task, right? And that's the knowledge base that you have that makes you qualified to actually lead and inspire and give advice and guide others in those roles as well. So I kind of agreed with both of those because I think both of those are important in order to think about you as a leader, as you as an individual, but then also the role that you play within that job. And so kind of the best marriage of both of those concepts, I thought, was the transformational leadership theory, which was like the marriage of both your traits and your skills. And really that's about cultivating followership, right? That it's through that combination of the kind of person that you are and the skills that you have in that role that allow you to create the environment and also build those relationships. So then in addition to that, ethics was a big concept tied in with leadership. And so I think this is a really challenging piece of education and educational leadership, just due to the nature of the job that we have as educators. I think parents and community members want ethical, responsible people interacting with their children on a daily basis. They want to know that they have good morals and good values and that they're going to, represent those and have a positive influence and impact on the students that they work with. But then on the same token, we also, through a lot of legislation and law, there's this push for curriculum and content to be kind of devoid of all of those personal feelings and morals and beliefs. So it's kind of an interesting balance, I think, but also one of the challenges of education, knowing that we have these contractual obligations to content and to uphold these laws with education, but then also we also are individuals and human beings with our own personal beliefs and values, and kind of thinking about how those might influence the decisions that you make, not just as a leader, but within the classroom and the school setting. Ultimately, I think the Horton resource touched on how you should still have some kind of moral compass that's guiding and inspiring you to make good decisions and to influence your decision-making process as a leader in a school or a district, but also having that balance to where you're not so set in bringing your personal morals and beliefs to the forefront of those decisions that they stifle or really dictate what's happening in the school environment. And so ultimately, I think ethical leaders have to understand the importance of perspective, not just of understanding that your perspective and your own beliefs can still be valued and important to you in that workspace, but then also understanding the complex nature of other values and perspectives that are going to appear in the staff and community and students with which you work, so that you can make ethical, good decisions that are good and beneficial for everybody involved in the school setting. Another important kind of concept that I think came about through exploring the resources from this module, in particular the article by Aguilar, was how you communicate your leadership style. And there was a particular story that was shared in the article where an administrator had introduced himself to a student and said something as simple as, "Hello, my name is Tom and I'm your friend." And that really resonated with me, because I think the way in which you communicate your leadership style is through your words a lot of times. And I think it really needs to be more than just a formal declaration of your position or title within the school. But I think based on my own experience, kind of looking at and analyzing some of the more successful administrators that I've worked with and some of the ones who maybe were not as successful or did not get a really great response from the population of the school that they were leading, I think the way that you communicate your leadership to other people gives them the basis of whether or not they want to follow you. And so I think when you have an approach where it is very much more like, my name is Tom and I'm your friend, you're more inviting to collaboration and communication. Whereas if you come out strong with your leadership and say, these are the decisions that I'm making and this is why I'm doing it and we're doing it this way, and it's, I get to make these decisions, I think that's going to kind of set you up for failure in some ways. So I think the words you use to communicate who you are as a leader and what you want as a leader to the people that are going to be following you is really important. But then also equally important are your actions. I like that this text also mentioned that leaders should be champions, because I really like just the connotation that comes with that word. It really feels like you're there to fight the good fight, and you're really there to kind of be that buffer, especially as a building admin, between teachers and all the decision making and things that need to happen at the building level, because ultimately you're there to support your staff so that they can each do their jobs. And I think if you are that champion and you're thinking with that foresight and that vision of what needs to happen so that my teachers can be successful, then I think that's going to set you up to be much more successful. I also think with your actions, you have to be continuously modeling your leadership, right? Lead by example. You want to have your staff support and connect with where you're taking them. And I think the best way to do that is to be doing that work with them, to be communicating with them so that they feel like they're not just being told what to do, but that there is that true collaboration. So then connecting this with my personal vision for my leadership, when I took the What's Your Leadership Style quiz, I discovered that I am a steward, which I feel really aligns with my detail-oriented and dependable nature, because those are things that I definitely value in my personal life that I feel like really do align with the kind of leader that I would like to be and the kinds of leaders that I like to follow. So I thought that those were definitely benefits that I saw from having that leadership style. I also really appreciated that this leadership style emphasized being solutions focused. And again, just to kind of draw on some of my experience watching and interacting with administrators that I've taught under, one of the most successful ones always shared that you can come to my office at any time to vent or express frustration about something, but know that I'm always going to ask you what your proposed solutions are. And I think having that balance of somebody who understands how to be empathetic with people, but then also pushes them to professionally get back on track and understand, like, we're here to solve this problem, is a really good balance. And so I think that's something that I am learning, and I would really hope I can also incorporate in my own leadership in the future. Some cons, or maybe some things that I think I need to work on as a leader, thinking about my steward leadership style, would be that I think consistency can feel intimidating and maybe limiting for people who need a little bit more creativity and flexibility. And so I think understanding that things, yes, there are protocol and processes, but that things can also be flexible and fluent, and sometimes things need to change or be reevaluated, is something that I've really been working on, especially in this last couple of years with challenges, not just with like COVID and online teaching, but just, bringing some experience in from my personal life too. I think more flexibility and understanding in that regard is a little bit better, that you can be, dependable and reliable and consistent while also having that balance of being a little bit more supportive and empathetic when things don't go the way that you had originally planned them out. And so with that, the standard correlation for this assignment, I feel like it correlates with standard 2, the ethics and professional norms standard, as we explored the resources and research that identified those specific traits and skills that successful leaders possess. We were also challenged to consider how these characteristics and skills come together to shape individual leadership styles, but also to inform decision-making processes. This assignment correlates with the other components of Standard 2 in that we discovered our individual leadership style and reflected on the role that ethics plays in educational leadership. This assignment was relevant to my learning because it helps me to develop a better understanding of how leadership requires balance between personal values and professional skill. And this assignment also improved my understanding of how effective leaders recognize and understand the importance of perspective. In order to make ethical decisions, school leaders must balance their individual values with the vision of the building to ensure that the mission of the school is being fulfilled in a responsible way that respects everyone involved. As a final reflection, I think this assignment has influenced the decisions that I will make as a future school leader as I consider my own strengths and weaknesses and my own leadership style, and then also the responsibility that I have in developing a healthy school culture for everybody that is involved in that process.